Welcome back, it's me, Lou. Okay, so for today's video, it's going to be part 2 of my special 5-part Boba Fett series. So for this series, if you haven't watched the first video, I'm primarily going to focus on the 3 3/4 line of Boba Fett action figures that we've gotten over the years. So, we're not going to be taking a look at any of the more modern stuff or any of the Black series. Instead, this is going to be kind of like a deep dive into like figures from yesterday, and these figures in particular are kind of, I want to say maybe like well over 10 years old by now, and this is a fun pair of action figures to look at. So let's get started. All right, let's start with this guy first. Okay, so this is Boba Fett from the Star Wars Legacy Collection. And I am very, very fond of this line of action figure. This figure came out back in 2009. And back then, it was a cool time to be collecting Star Wars figures, especially, these smaller 3 3/4 figures. During this time period, they had the droid factory. So, like, every figure in the line would get a small piece of a droid. It's pretty much like, what we see nowadays with the Build-A-Figures with, like, the Marvel Legends and, like, some of the DC figures. But for Star Wars, the 3 3/4 line, we got a chance to, like, actually build a droid. So every figure in the wave would come with a specific piece. Boba Fett came with the body of the astromech. And if you look here, you collect all the different parts to build R3A2, and he's featured right here. This was such a great action figure. Nowadays a lot of people are really big on like the vintage collection, but the vintage collection is nothing necessarily new. That style of action figure with all the points of articulation, it's been around for a while, and this is a figure that, kind of predates, what we see nowadays with the vintage collection. Highly articulated. This Boba Fett has a ball-jointed head. His arms rotate. His shoulders are articulated, so his arms can actually go out. Elbow bend, elbow swivel. His wrists are articulated. Knee articulation, ankle articulation. It's amazing. And this figure came out in 2009. So in terms of action figure engineering, right now it's 2021. Back in 2009. They were already producing super articulated action figures, and this guy came out in 2009. And then prior to that, in 2004, we got this guy here, which was also highly articulated version of Boba Fett. So Boba Fett's he's a character that Hasbro will revisit time and time again, and there's just so many Boba Fett action figures out there. But this one was great. Now, unfortunately, this is only going to be a mint on card review. But one of the coolest things about this action figure, I do have this figure somewhere loose in my house. I just haven't dug it out. But one of the cool things about this action figure is that you can actually remove Boba Fett's helmet, as you can see under there. So his helmet comes off, and it reveals actor Tamora Morrison. So he has that. Tamora Morrison plays Jango Fett in Attack of the Clones. You take into consideration Boba Fett is a clone of his father, Jango Fett, so of course he's going to look the same. So it's kind of neat that once you remove this helmet, you actually got to see Boba Fett's face. And it's the likeness of Tamora Morrison, and I believe he's kind of wearing like a flight head wrap, so he's kind of like, you don't necessarily see his entire head. You do see his face, but I think he's wearing this like kind of like head wrap. It's like covers most of his face and the top of his head and his chin, but you do see his face though. But it's just kind of cool because for the longest time, especially as a kid, what does Boba Fett look like? It wasn't until Attack of the Clones that we got a peek at what was under the helmet. But it's really cool that for the first time we actually got a figure where you can remove the helmet and it reveals Tamora Morrison as Boba Fett. So that's really cool, especially nowadays with the Book of Boba Fett debuting on Disney Plus very soon. So yeah, this I have so many fond memories of this figure in particular. Um, there was a Target that was located near my work, and I remember I'd go there if I left for work early enough. I'd hit up that Target before work, or if I needed to run errands after work, like to go grocery shopping, I'd hit up that Target. And I have such fond memories of going to that Target and always hunting for Star Wars figures. And I'd have such great luck there too, because that Target, it wasn't as frequented by collectors as often as some of the other ones. So that was for me the Target to go to if I was looking for new figures, because chances are that Target would always have them. And I believe this is where I got this Boba Fett. Unfortunately, that Target eventually closed down, but at least I have this figure to like remind me of it. In terms of this figure, I love the graphic design. The package design is great. A really unique shaped card. A lot of angles and cuts, and it just looks really neat. It's not just a plain rectangle. I love the promotional image of Boba Fett right here. It looks really cool. The white background provides a lot of stark contrast, so it really makes the figure pop out. There was a cool promotional offer right here for episode 1. It might have been an anniversary year, so I think that's why they were doing it. So I think if you collected like enough like proof of purchases or something, you got to do a mail away, and it was like an exclusive Qui-Gon Jinn with an Eopie. That it's kind of like a camel looking thing. And I'm not sure if I still have that. I might have sold it, unfortunately. But I remember participating in that mail away. But yeah, this is a great figure. It's awesome all around. You look on the back, a cool image of Boba Fett from Empire. And then a kind of short little bio on Boba Fett here. Boba Fett is a merciless bounty hunter whose distinctive armor contains countless weapons and devices. Son of notorious bounty hunter Jango Fett, Boba tracks and eventually captures Han Solo. And some of the figures in this wave, you have Han Solo with Stormtrooper armor, you have a Chewbacca, and then you have the Imperial scanning crew. So yeah, this is awesome. It's 2021 now, and this figure came out in 2009. So you're looking at something that's roughly about, 12 years old. Yeah, so I'm very nostalgic for this time period. It was a great time to collect Star Wars figures. Alright, so with that being said, let's move on to this guy. So this guy right here, this action figure came out the following year in 2010, I believe. Where's the date? Yeah, 2010. So what we have here is the Vintage Collection Star Wars. So, nowadays, it's like I said, Vintage Collection isn't new. It's been around for a long, long time, and what we have here is the Vintage Collection Empire Strikes Back Boba Fett. And then there was also a promotional mail away here, free Boba Fett. So if you purchased 5 Star Wars figures, and this offer expired in March 2011, you got to do the mail away, and then you got like a vintage style Boba Fett with like a firing missile. I think I have this somewhere. It might be in the box, the mailer box. I just have to go hunt around for it. The vintage cards are cool. They kind of give you the old Kenner logo as opposed to the Hasbro logo. But you do get that on the back. This figure, I believe, is the exact same figure as the one that came the year before. So I believe these two figures right here, the 2009 version on the Legacy card and the 2010 on the Vintage Collection card, I believe these are the exact same figure. There might be some slight differences in the paint application. Like this one looks a little bit more beat up, but I believe the sculpts are identical, which would make a lot of sense just because these are only a year apart. I think some of the stark differences, though, is that this guy here comes with the blaster right there, where this guy only comes with the rifle. Otherwise, I believe they're the same sculpt, I think. I gotta hunt down that action figure. I do have this loose somewhere in my house. I just gotta find it. But much like this figure here, this one you can remove the helmet and you can reveal Boba Fett's face, as you can see underneath. Identical, I believe, in every way except for maybe the paint application. It's like I said, I think this one's a little bit more detailed. And on the back, we have the original OG Boba Fett on the Empire card from way back in the day, and they talk about, you know, celebrating the Star Wars saga here. And then some of the other figures in this wave, there was Darth Vader, Han Solo, Bespin Luke, Hoth Leia, and C-3PO. And this figure was Vintage Collection 09, so this was the 9th figure in the Vintage Collection. So what's curious is that this figure here came out in 2010. But prior to that, in 2004, you know, they gave us this Vintage Collection figure. But this does not belong to the Vintage Collection line. You know, as you can see, the package design is very, very similar. But this figure came out 6 years prior to this one. And as you can see, this one has the Return of the Jedi masthead, where this one has the Empire one. They have the same graphic here. But these are different figures altogether. This is clearly a different sculpt than this one. This one at the time was a little bit more modern. I think the proportions on this one are a lot better. And this one, his helmet does not come off, I believe. So, yeah, this was a great time to collect figures. Boba Fett, you know, he's such a popular character, and with the new Disney Plus series coming out, The Book of Boba Fett, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if we see just like a crazy resurgence of like Boba Fett merchandise. You know, much like we saw with The Mandalorian. You know, there's so much Baby Grogu stuff, and, you know, a couple of like Mandalorian action figures. So I'm sure, like, you know, once Book of Boba Fett comes out, we'll see like a good number of Boba Fett action figures. We'll probably see a bunch of repaints, retoolings, you know. But yeah, such a great character, such a great history of action figures. Yeah, awesome all around. Very nostalgic for especially this time period. Vintage collection is cool. I know a lot of people are into them right now. But, oh man, I miss this time period. For me, like, the 2008, 2009 period of collecting action figures was awesome. I really missed the Build-A-Droid. And then prior to this, you know, certain lines of the Star Wars would come with, like, the weapons locker, where you get, like a small weapons locker of a bunch of guns and weapons and accessories. That was really cool. So, yeah, lots of fun here. Okay, so let's wrap this up. This was part 2 of my little look at some of the different action figures of Boba Fett that we've gotten throughout the years. Once again, my name is Lou. If you are new to my channel, welcome. If you are a returning viewer or subscriber, thank you so much for your continued likes, comments, and support. I greatly appreciate it. So, be on the lookout for part 3 of this Boba Fett video series. So until then, be safe, take care of yourself, and most importantly, be happy. And I'll talk to you soon.